Balgruuf the Greater is one of the best characters that Skyrim has to offer. He's got amazing attire, a deep voice, and a true Nord attitude where he's not afraid to back down from anything, as evidenced by the fact that he's one of the few Jarls that you actually have to fight in Skyrim if you choose the correct side of the Civil War. Well, in today's video, I'm going to discuss how I feel as though Balgruuf was absolutely wasted and why they should have done more with him. I'm going to give 3 options of how I felt they could have put Balgruuf as a character to better use in Skyrim. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I want to say is that Balgruuf is completely wasted. If you choose the correct side of the Civil War, which is the Stormcloak side, because they're fighting for freedom, they don't want to be dominated by a bunch of racist elves that just want to kill everybody and open Oblivion gates, you end up having to actually fight against Balgruuf. And when he loses, he basically spends the rest of the game living in a basement complaining about why he couldn't find his children, which doesn't make sense because we peacefully gave him a few days to go gather his things and his children. I don't understand why he couldn't find his children. But that is an unfit ending for such an otherwise captivating and charismatic character. So here are 3 options of what I think they should have done in Balgruuf's storyline. Option number 1 would be to have Balgruuf stay neutral throughout the entire course of the Civil War. Now, if you sit back and think about it, there are some very important aspects that indicate that Balgruuf was secretly neutral. If you look at the fact that, on the one hand, his soldiers were more aligned with the Empire. In fact, if you fight them, they'll say for the glory of the Empire. On the other hand, Balgruuf allowed Heimskr to openly preach and to be able to spread his message in the middle of the courtyard without being arrested or even so much as attacked by the guards. So you have evidence for him being on the support of both sides. What that tells me is that Balgruuf simply wanted the Empire to go back to the way it was before the White Gold Concordant. Proof of that is the fact that he's got Empire-aligned people like Caius, Commander Caius, in his ranks, but at the same time, he's allowing a Shrine of Talos to be there openly, which tells me he's more of an old-school Imperial rather than this new-school White Gold Concordant type Imperial. So how would that allow Balgruuf to stay neutral? Well, Commander Caius, as well as Ulfred Battleborn, are extremely openly aligned with the Empire. They could have been the ones that force the troops to fight against you if you're a Stormcloak, while allowing Balgruuf to stay in the background and basically secretly cheer you on from the sides. That would have been one option that would have been a better outcome than what we got. Option 2, which I think is the best one, would be far more interesting. And option 2 would be during the mission where you have to hand Ulfric Stormcloak's axe to Balgruuf, there should have been a persuade check that allows you to try to convince Balgruuf to join whatever side you're on. If you're fighting as an Imperial, you should have been allowed to persuade him to join the Imperials, and if you're a Stormcloak, you should have been allowed to persuade him to join the Stormcloaks. If you think about it, you're his Thane at this point in the mission. A Thane is basically an executive officer in the royal court of the Jarl. That's kind of like a cabinet member for a president, kind of like a Secretary of State or something like that. If you are in his court, you should be able to act as a Thane, use your powers and authority as a Thane, and have the Jarl's ear and be able to convince him of what course of action to take. That would have actually been something that makes the Thane title useful, because as it stands in Skyrim now, the only useful thing about being a Thane is being able to buy a house and marry the housecarl. There's literally no other benefit for being a Thane in Skyrim other than being able to have extra places to store all the dragon bones you keep collecting until you have enough to make your frickin' set of armor. But if you could actually persuade Jarls to make decisions, then you actually feel like a real Thane, and then it would actually make sense. So that is another option that you could choose, that I think you should have had, as opposed to what was in the standard game, is to convince the Jarl of Whiterun, Balgruuf, to join whatever side you join. And finally, option 3, which I think would have been a little more depressing and a little more dark, but it sort of fits in with the overall theme of Skyrim, which is you befriend some kind of leader who dies and then someone else takes their place. Option 3, Jarl Balgruuf dies. So when the first dragon attacks Whiterun, Balgruuf's not there. He's pretty much just in his throne room. Let's assume that we had another dragon attack in Whiterun, but this time because of Balgruuf's sense of honor, his Nord prowess, and his Nord sense of battle, because if you think about it, the Nords in Skyrim, they're kind of like Saiyans, right? They have that same Saiyan, samurai, Sith Lord, proving your battle through might. Let's assume that the second time the dragon came to Whiterun, Balgruuf wanted to join you in battle, but tragically, he ends up getting killed by the dragon. Maybe the dragon picks him up and drops him on the ground really hard. So, Balgruuf dies, and depending on what side of the Civil War you're on, that determines the next Jarl. In that case, if Balgruuf died, I would have had Ulfred Battleborn become the Jarl if you're with the Imperials, and Vignar Greymane become the Jarl as in the canonical, proper, morally righteous ending of Skyrim where you side with the Stormcloaks. And that would have actually fleshed out the conflict between the Battleborns and the Greymanes, because maybe if Ulfred takes the throne, you get more dialogue options about how Vignar feels about that, and if Vignar takes the throne, you get more dialogue options about how Ulfred feels about that. That would have actually fleshed those characters out even more. So then, after Balgruuf dies, maybe you have a cave where you have to bury his remains and lay him to rest, and in that cave you get to talk to his ghost one last time, kind of like what you got to do with Kodlak Whitemane when he dies, and he gets to tell you what side he would have joined had he continued to live. And in that dialogue, he would have said that he doesn't want the battle to happen because he doesn't want Nords to die on both sides, but the fact that he secretly told the guards not to arrest Heimskr is fact that whatever side was on Talos' side, that's the side that he would have joined. And then you sort of get to say one last goodbye to him. And then what if you got to meet him in Sovngarde when you go to kill Alduin? Anyway, this is my idea of how they could have made better use of Balgruuf. If you like it, let me know it, share it with your friends, let's make this go viral. Maybe Bethesda will incorporate some of these elements in the next Elder Scrolls game. Have a great day, everybody.